afternoon. Ah, Excellencies, authorities, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I think we have a difficult task because we are launching for first time the Leaders Summit. After the launch time, there is some difficulties because we have the people between the technical session, the exhibition area. And we have today a huge room, able for 1,200 people. Tomorrow, this room will be divided in two. In this part will be, again, the Leaders Summit area. In the other, there will be a small theater just for the Majlis Forum. But now, I think if you like, we could be more concentrated just to have all the people in face to the panelists and the speaker, because it will be easier just to be more interactive sessions. No? So first, I'm delighted just to open this first Leaders Summit panel. When we finished the last conference in Sao Paulo 2 years ago, we organized 14 panels. But in the panels, we cover all the things we was more or less worried that the majority of the people of our industry, the academia, the technical problems, the political, the policy, and the other. We decided this year just to have something exclusive, as the Singapore Water Week did years ago, just to devote 2 complete days to have the leaders of our industry around the main problems of that industry and concentrate this kind of panels in only a separate event of the technical sessions. This year we have done something intermediate. It is the first day we had, that is Leaders with Community is open to everyone, just to have more open discussion about the things. And tomorrow will be only for the leaders and will be in a more close area just to talk. I think it's a good success. We have registered over 200 people from this first edition. I think it's really a success compared with the 1,100 people we have in the overall Congress. So today, to start this Leader Summit, we have 3 key speakers and 1 key speaker coming from this morning. It was delayed after all the protocol we have for the presence of the Prince. So, but we start, at least for our first invited speaker. Later on, Gonzalo de la Cámara, who was this morning the last speaker, will have the intervention, and followed by Simon Kiprono from the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Water and Sanitation of Kenya. And finally, our last key speaker is Peter Yu Hee Ng, the CEO of the Public Utility Board of Singapore. And after, we'll have an interesting panel, just to close the first day of the Leaders Summit. This interesting panel is the survival of sustainability. That's a question we have in our industry. The role of advanced water treatment solution. The innovation is playing a key role in this kind of things. I hope you enjoy this Leaders Summit. And now, I had the pleasure just to introduce our first key speaker, His Excellency Julio Cesar Kosaka, Vice Minister of the Construction and Sanitation of Peru. Mr. Kosaka, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Julio Cosaka, Vice Minister of Housing and Construction and Sanitation. My presentation is the Peru and the Sanitation in Peru. Yes. The universal right to potable water and sewerage has committed to international commitments among leaders of each nation to guarantee universal access with quality and sustainability. In Peru, in addition to reducing this infrastructure gap or increasing access to the service in terms of drinking water, one of the biggest problems is continuity, that is the number of hours per day with which they count. and the quality of service to the population. The above is related to the growing shortage of fresh water worldwide, known as water stress. I will start by making a brief review of my country, Peru, in which one of the new 7 wonders of the modern world is located, Machu Picchu, and the best ceviche in the world, and pisco, the original. We have a population of over 31 million inhabitants, about 25% of whom are in the rural areas. Our GDP has a value of $203 million, about 7,000 US dollar per capita. And in the 17 years, it has had an average of 5.3% growth rate. I invite to you now my country, our Inca culture, huge biodiversity, and the taste, our exquisite culinary variety. The volume of fresh water that Peru has about 1.9% of the total superficial water in the world, being the 8th country with greater water availability. However, 62% of the Peruvian population is located in the coast, which only has 1.8% of the country's water availability. This situation leads us to think about implementing proposals for desalination of seawater to produce drinking water and they close the gaps in the service. In 2016, a baseline was developed that allowed us to know in detail the problem, goals, and the strategy we proposed with a view towards 2021 in the framework of national sanitation policy and a national sanitation plan. In relation to the problem found, objectives were defined that allow us to reach universal access goals with quality and sustainability to sanitation services. As you can see, our goal as a country by 2021 is to reach 100% coverage in urban sanitation service, drinking water, sanitary, sewage, and wastewater treatment, and significantly increase service values for the rural areas. We have identified that about US dollar 15 billion is required, of which 18% will be used in infrastructure for access to drinking water service, including water treatment, sanitary, sewage, and wastewater treatment, extension on coverage and quality of service, while 16% will be used in infrastructure to ensure the quality of the service provided, rehabilitation and improvement of existing infrastructure. The remaining 4% will be destined to capacity building and micro-mediation. In that context, the strategy we have developed to finance to the infrastructure that will allow us to close gap are: 1. Executive works the public financial through state transfer and foreign indebtedness. What is completed with private financial through the mechanism of investment for obras por impuesto in Spanish and public-private partnerships. As part of the execution of work with public investment, the Peruvian state was investment in the last 4 years about 3,219 million US dollars in more than 2,019 sanitation projects, So far this year, 2019, more than 7,035 US dollar million has been transferred to regional and local government, municipalities, and more than 365 million US dollar has been allocated in direct execution of work. In 22 sanitation programs, for its parts in rural area, almost 3 billion US dollar has been transferred to regional and local government for the execution of 2,622 investment projects in drinking water and sanitary disposal of excreta, while 521 projects has been directly executed, is which has invested in 382 million US dollars. Regarding the execution of sanitation project with private financing through the investment for taxes mechanism, the Peruvian nation plans to invest around 100 million US dollar in 17 investment projects ubicated in 9 of 24 regions of Peru, including the supply of potable water service and the wastewater treatment service. Regarding the mechanism of public-private partnership, there are two situations. One, the concession contract system. Two, a portfolio of projects that in process to achieve a concession. In the first case, there are 4 concession contracts that include the construction, operation, and maintenance of wastewater treatment plants and potable water treatment plants. One, known as a Chillon Plan, it saves the water of the Chillon River. It was subscribed in the year 2000 with a concession for terms of 7 years and provided Sedapal, the company that supplied Lima and Callao with a flow of 2 cubic meters per second. Once the concession period is over, it's probable that the Peruvian government put in back into the value to continue with these services through a new concession contract. 2 and 3, they correspond to the Tawada wastewater treatment plants, concession in 2012, being one of the largest in South America with a wastewater treatment capacity of 14 cubic meters per second, and the La Chira wastewater treatment plant, concession in 2016, which deals with a flow rate of 3.3 cubic meters per second on average. 4 correspond to the Provisur project. In this regard, we must highlight that this contract is currently being executed in the construction phase, with completion date exclusive for the first quarter of 2020. This project is the first that completes construction of a seawater desalination plant for human consumption. The project proposes to supply 100,000 inhabitants of the southern zone of the Lima with potable water with an investment of approximately 100 million US dollar for a flow of 14 cubic meters per second through the term of the concession, which is 25 years. On these sheets, the graph of the left side shows how concession contracts have contributed in closing gaps in wastewater treatment. In Sedapal, company responsible for providing service in metropolitan Lima and Callao, thus it can be seen in the graph of the left that the Tawada wastewater treatment and the La Chira wastewater treatment plant contribute approximately 80% of the sewerage treatment by Sedapal. The above reflects that the strategy of using PPP is successful in terms of improving wastewater treatment. It is based on this result that the Peruvian state in commitment to the PPP mechanism in other projects that involve the treatment of wastewater as well as drinking water. These sheets present the portfolio of PPP projects that we have in different phases, among which we can highlight to the co-funded private initiatives such as the Titicaca wastewater treatment plant project. This contract will be signed in a few days and is a project of more than $248 million with 6 treatment plants to be built, as well as the operation and maintenance of 4 existing treatment plants around Lake Titicaca, the navigable lake highest in the world, natural wonder declared natural heritage of Peru. With regard to drinking water treatment in Peru, seawater desalination technology is being promoted, technology that is not new in other sectors and other uses, but the sanitation sector will use it for the first time in the Provisur project, becoming the first desalination plant that will treat seawater for human consumption purposes. In addition to the above, we can indicate that currently in Peru, the implementation for 5 new projects is being managed, which consider desalination of seawater as an alternative for closing gaps in water supply for human consumption. Thus, we have 2 projects in Lima, in addition to the Provisur project, called North Lima and South Lima. 2 projects in Piura, Talara and Paita, and 1 in Lambayeque, which at the time will be the part of public being, where we will invite private investment to submit their proposal to later grant the concession of the respective contract. The estimated amount of this project exceeds $314 million. Likewise, it is important to tell you that in addition, about 13 potential PPP projects has been identified for desalination of seawater of human consumption with an estimated investment of about $900 million. The purpose of this project is to close infrastructure to quality gap, increasing the hours that the potable water service is provided. As you can see, private participation through PPP is an investment mechanism for the execution of sanitation projects, which, like a tax work and public investment, will continue to be promoted by Ministry of Housing, Construction and Sanitation for closing gaps in sanitation service. This investment have evaluation parameters, the cost of the investment, as well as the cost of maintenance and operation. That is, the productive efficiency will be so with the minimization of costs, taking into account the greater degree of contribution in the coverage indices, complying with the drinking water quality parameters. Finally, by way of the conclusion, it is important to mention that Peru has a goal in the sanitation sector, the incorporation to the service to 100% of Peruvians in urban areas in 2021 and 100% of Peruvians in rural areas in 2030, according to our National Sanitation Plan 2017-2021. The Ministry of Housing, of Construction and Sanitation is promoting a portfolio of projects in drinking water and sewage and wastewater treatment through PPP for more than $3,000 million for investment. which will benefit more than 20% of the population, about 10 million Peruvians. Within the project portfolio, seawater desalination projects have been considered as an alternative to supply drinking water in the places of greatest water stress on the Peruvian coast. The Peruvian state co-finances project investment through PPPs, prioritizing the least impact on user fees, especially for lower income users. Thank you all.